We got on there. We be down there at 5.
Talk to this brother.
Fides et ratio. Originally written in September 14, 1998. It pretty much describes the relationship between faith and reason. Basically, it's saying together, faith and reason work together, and they do not oppose each other.
Action.
Good evening, and welcome to Repentance Time with your host for tonight, me, Tim. Today we'll be discussing Fides et ratio, an encyclical written by John Paul II, newly canonized St. John Paul II. Specifically, we'll be discussing different faces of human truth with our guests for tonight, Brian Van Dyke and Kwan. Thank you. Alright, moving on to our first guest, a newly published author of the book 101 Ways to Use Duct Tape, but we'll not be talking about that today. Please welcome, audience, Brian Van Dyke.
Woo! Woohoo! Woo! Woohoo!
Hey, Daddy!
Alright, Brian, what will we be discussing today?
Well, today we'll be discussing the interesting topic of humanity and her draw to faith and search for truth.
Alright, Mr. Van Dyke, please explain.
Well, basically humanity has always had this drive to seek and prove the truth. Just with these modern advancements, we have more kind of gone away from just blind faith and kind of moved towards cold, hard scientific fact.
Alright, Mr. Van Dyke, so should we go ahead and believe these cold, hard facts as you put it?
Well, not totally, because our brain isn't quite capable of fully comprehending, that is, God's existence, but we should not let this get us down.
So we should have faith in fact, too?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have some sort of example of this?
A good example could be Shroud of Turin. It has the exact wounds of Jesus, but there's no actual way of proving it. But, like, for example, it could be one of the outlaws things that they put over them. It could have been anybody that might have been crucified, or it might have even been a piece of artwork.
So the Shroud of Turin, just to clarify for our viewers that do not know, Shroud of Turin was the burial cloth of Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Okay.
Alright, let's get back on this search for truth.
Correct. People either do not believe some, believe it for others. Like, for example, I believe it, but you may not believe it, so everybody kind of has their own truth, or people believe totally unknown.
Alright, how do people take this belief in God if they grew up a different way or grew up with no God?
Well, usually they don't take it very well because most people are scared of change.
So, why are these people afraid of change?
Because people are comfortable with what they think, so once what they believe is proven wrong, they tend to block it out because they may have based their whole life on that specific belief, and that can create fear and anxiety, which can make living life difficult.
So an example of this is then a new religion moves in, converts his churchgoers. He is afraid to convert this new religion because what he based his life around is now called into question with the contradictions of this new religion. I apologize, but Brian Van Dyke was suddenly called away on some very important business. So we got another guest to come out. He's the new winner of the Athlete of the Year award. Please welcome Kwan Barnes. Glad to have you on the show, Kwan. Kwan, what will we be talking about today?
We will be talking about 3 modes of truth.
That sounds interesting.
Well, it is not. But the first mode is the mode of truth. The mode of truth is the knowledge that comes from experimenting and that comes from obvious evidence.
Obvious evidence. What is that?
Like the grass is green and the sky is blue.
Okay, so then experimenting sounds similar to maybe the scientific method.
Yes, exactly.
For some viewers that do not know what the scientific method is, a quick run through is there's a question posed, you do research on the question, then you form a hypothesis. Then you test it, analyze what comes out, and then you figure out what is right and wrong.
The second mode is the mode of philosophy.
I take this one would be harder to understand than the last.
Yes, very.
Okay, please explain.
It says basically do not rely on one single philosopher for every explanation because they might be influenced heavier on something you do not understand.
So, if the ways a philosopher grew up, or what schools they attended, have an effect on what they think?
Yes, a huge effect. Everything is based off something else except this third mode.
What is this third mode?
It is the mode of truth from God. For example, miracles. We do not know how it happens, but it helps explain God's existence.
So, it is the truth that comes directly from God.
Correct.
So, with the combination of these three modes, we will further our knowledge of how faith and reason work together.
Yes.
Quan, thanks for being on the show and your time.
Thank you. It's my pleasure being here.
Moving on to our third and final part of the show, reason.
One.
To find the truth, one needs reason. With reason, the principle of non-contradiction comes to life. This principle is, if there's two truths that are opposite each other, one has to be right and the other has to be wrong. And one needs the least bit of reason to figure which one is right and which one is wrong. As it states in Fides Ratio, men and women's journey for discovery is unstoppable. Also, the search for truth and the search for a person to whom they might entrust themselves to. So basically, this is saying that our search for the truth will never stop. And the second part of that is saying that we are always looking for a friend. To trust, this trust plays a huge role as humanity, as a social being. Alright,